Good afternoon to everyone, especially Dr. Eri, Dr. Ben, Chandra, all the participants of the ASEAN People's Forum. And I'm sharing some reflections on social solidarity, economy, and sustainable development goals. This is a theme that has been highlighted quite significantly by many researchers, especially ILO, through the many initiatives, through the SSE Academy, through the UN task force that has been set up, and ILO is an anchor to that. And so the social solidarity economy and the SDGs, Agenda 2030, has some parallels. And this diagram before us illustrates that. Because in ASAC, we took the theme of SSE with the three P's, people, prosperity, planet, which are significant to the development agenda, because you got people, you got prosperity, economic development, social development, and environment. And in addition to that, this was largely developed by Dr. Ben Quinones. He emphasized ethical values, which in many ways is related to the SDG 16 on integrity, on accountability, on character, on justice, on the rights principle. And it also linked to the theme of governance, which could be SDG 16 and SDG 17. So SSE has a very strong element of not just individual business, but it's also collective businesses, it's the people working together and setting things right. Now, in SDGs, we all know there are 17 sustainable development goals and over 169 or 65 targets and even more indicators. But central to the SDGs are the 5 Ps, which is people, prosperity, and planet, which corresponds well with the SSE theme of people, prosperity, planet. But the SDGs go on to build on peace, justice, which is a theme coming from the human rights agenda, and partnerships, which are very critical, SDG 17, global partnerships, multi-stakeholder engagement, working with government, with grassroots communities, with business, with the academia, with civil society. So the framework, which is the ideological base that we are looking at, is very central in the framework that we are using. So what is the development paradigm that's addressing excessive capitalism, neoliberal policies, or where profit and investment and GDP becomes more important than people and planet, and where we see exploitation and discrimination and abuse and lack of accountability. So it is holistic, it's balanced, it's integrated. And so both SSE as a platform for implementation, because we are seeing that strong at grassroots communities, through cooperatives, through fair trade, through self-help groups, through community-based organizations. We are seeing them put into practice people, planet, prosperity, partnership, because they have to work together, and a justice and development model that becomes quite critical. So that's establishing the framework and at the heart of what SSE and SDG is all about. Next, please. Now, within this, we are seeing very clearly that in SDGs, people centers in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 SDGs, where it is addressing poverty, it's addressing hunger, it's health and well-being, it's education, it's gender equality. So people become quite central to the whole process in the way we are operating and developing the whole team in terms of people empowerment, people at the center of development. And I think that is most critical in the approach that we are taking. And so if we move on then to planet, so planet brings out various themes on water, on management of energy, on various things on life in water, life on land, and so forth, climate change. These sort of things come out in SDG 6, 12, 13, 14, 15. And when we take prosperity, it is actually integrated in addressing inequality. It's in addressing various other infrastructure, economic growth, consumption, and so forth. But decent work, SDG 8 is quite critical, a theme that we are looking at, and I'll come to that point. But peace, SDG 16, and partnership in SDG 17. So SDGs is a development paradigm and agenda, which is not just the theory, but it is cross-cutting, and it is taking a much more stronger approach in a more holistic, comprehensive development agenda. So it's not one against another, but it's taking the whole. Next, please. And so if we take the theme in SDGs, leaving no one behind, SSE likewise at the community level talks about inclusion of all people. It's fighting against this dominant model of the haves and the have-nots, between the rich, the powerful, and the powerlessness. And so we are looking at inclusion and rights irrespective of age, sex, disability, race, ethnicity, origin, religion, economic, or other status or class. So 9 different categories are brought. So inclusion is a key message in SSE. It's in the community setting, and it's people all living in the neighborhood. So SDG 8.3 on policies supporting productive activities, decent job creation and entrepreneurship. So income generation, it's not a charity approach, but it is to create economy, it's to create wealth, and that wealth is a sustainable approach to job creation and wealth creation and entrepreneurship or enterprise development. But within SDG 8, which has this great theme of work, decent work, of economic development, it's anchored in SDG 8.8 to a rights-based approach where there is a protection of labor, that people intrinsically have rights in the workplace, and it's not an exploitative model, but it's a partnership model, it's profit sharing, it is leaving no one behind, and it's not just self-enrichment as a theory, but in actual practice. And finally, and I would conclude with this point, next please, that in both SSE and SDG, the key is community empowerment. So the models that we see of cooperatives, grassroots organizations, women-based, forest-based communities is a community empowerment strategy. It's not disempowering the community in urban or rural, but this empowerment as SDG 16, which is rights-based, calls for effective, accountable, and transparent institutions. It is accountable to the people. It is an empowering strategy that the resources and the informations are made known. And finally, in this process, it's responsive, inclusive, participatory, representative decision making. I think this distinguishes other methods of working with local communities. And in SDG, this is fundamental, and it's a key principle of SSE-based communities that is accountable, it's inclusive, it's participatory, and it's representative. So this is not just in theory, but if we look at the examples, I know Punsap is sharing her experiences, or the experiences, ground experiences from Indonesia or Malaysia or other parts of ASEAN where SSE is operating, then they are putting into practice and testing out SDGs. And SDG comes alive because empowered communities take on the 17 SDG goals in a holistic, empowering way. And I wish you all well for this conference, and I pray and hope that the lessons learned would enrich us in practice as a reflective community and as a community that impacts for change and brings hope for ASEAN, especially for the poor and powerless. With those words, thank you very much to Dr. Eri for inviting me, and to ESSEC. All the best for the rest of this workshop and discussion. Thank you.